Good day, Cochise County, and welcome to the Michael Zehr Show. Today's date is Friday, April 5th, 2024, and we're streaming to you from the Rising Eagle Studios here at the Warrior Healing Center in Sierra Vista, Arizona. Today, my special guest veteran is Gary Marsh. Gary, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out. Gary's going to be a new member of the Warrior Healing Center staff here, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in the interview about the undersea warriors, right?
Right.
So tell us, what was it that inspired you to join the military, and what branch did you join?
Well, I joined the Army back in 1996. I guess my friend and I were playing around, and we would always play soldier and things like that,
right?
Special forces and all of that good stuff. And so, I kind of just took it and kept on running with it until my recruiter, Mr. Coburn, turned around and found me and talked me into going. So, I joined the Army in 96 and left for basic training, AIT, right out of high school. In fact, 2 weeks out of high school. And went to Fort McClellan, Alabama, where I went through MP school.
Hey, yeah. I remember Fort McClellan.
Yeah, and then after, I didn't even graduate from McClellan because I had to go to airborne school. So I left the day before graduation, so I didn't even get to walk with my class. But it was fun. I enjoyed it, and I loved it. So.
But you did become an MP, though, right?
Yeah.
And then you went from there to airborne?
Yep, went right into airborne school, and then after airborne school, they wound up sending me across the ocean to Asia, to Korea.
Okay.
Did 13 months in Korea because I was trying to extend. I like Korea.
Right? You liked it there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus,
What was your favorite thing about being in Korea?
Oh, I guess the food.
The food?
The food was the best.
Yeah.
And then I did a lot of rock climbing, rappelling, and stuff like that when I was there. I kind of got into that. So, and they had a lot of good places to do that.
So they had a lot of good outdoor, like, hiking and stuff, too, as well?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I never thought of Korea like that.
Yeah, Camp Casey, it was plenty of cliffs to climb around
Right.
on, and they had a couple places just up the road that you could actually go, like, rappel next to a waterfall and all of that good stuff. So
I have to ask you, why would an MP want to be airborne? Just to have that...
Just to have that.
That bragging right that you're airborne. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Not everybody can do that.
Yeah,
right?
it was pretty tough.
Yeah,
for sure.
What was your best experience when you went to jump school?
Oh, in jump school?
Yeah.
I actually had somebody steal my air out from underneath my chute, and I was about 80 feet in the air when it happened. So I came down like a brick and just boom hit the ground. So that was pretty interesting.
Wow.
Of course.
File for VA disability for that now.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
All this stuff we did is catching up to me now.
Amen to that, because it does. Especially as we get older, man. All that hard knocks. It's not an easy life being in the military, for sure.
No, it was not.
And then being an MP, tell us what your experience was like that. Was it a position that you really enjoyed, I'm guessing?
Yeah, actually, most of my career, I was basically what we call a field MP and did a lot of field missions.
Okay.
But there were certain caveats to that. After I came back from Korea, I wound up going to Fort Stewart for a year and then had to rotate up to Fort Bragg so that I could actually be in an airborne unit.
Right.
Once that happened, I happened to run into the Sergeant Major of the 5th Special Forces Group. And he built my home and talked to me about, what I did and all of that stuff. And it was a funny conversation because I was helping him when he built my house. And I told him I would help him do whatever he's doing. And we were out picking up hay bales. And he's like, so what does MPs do? And I was like, well, to be honest with you, Sergeant Major, we're kind of trained to kick the Special Forces butt. And so he was like, what? And so anyway, I explained the Dash 10 to him and what our field missions were, base cluster defense and all the other route recon and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, okay. And come to find out, he had contacted my first sergeant and got us to turn around and be Op 4 for a bunch of his students and stuff coming through for special forces.
Oh, wow.
So we did, when we were on a training cycle, we got to go play with the special forces and do our training and show them what we could do, and it worked out really good. And I think that was the funnest thing I ever got to do.
Very cool. Very cool. So how many years did you serve in the Army?
I did just under 8 years active.
8 years active duty? Okay.
Yeah. And then turned around and I took I no longer could run because of the falls and the running and carrying all the big heavy duty stuff. And so I took a medical discharge, and then a couple years later came back to work for the military as a police officer civilian.
Now, can you take a military discharge from a medical discharge from the military and then still file for VA benefits on top of it?
Yes.
Can you? Okay,
Yes.
good to know.
Yeah, the only stipulation is that so if you get what they call a severance packet or compensation for your medical discharge, for whatever the discharge was, they minus that from your total compensation. So say you get 70% like I did right out of the gate from the VA.
Right.
They take that 20% and they do some math calculations and stuff like that, but it reduces your monthly payment until
from the military?
From the military.
Right.
Until all of that money that the Army gave you when you got out, or the Marine Corps or Air Force or whoever, until that's paid back. And then it goes back up.
All right. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
And you're at 70% right now? Or?
No, actually, I've actually made it all the way to 100.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because a lot of times, especially with all the injuries that you were describing, I mean, I can't imagine what it must have been like, landing with that parachute, that 80-foot drop, and hitting the ground so hard. And a lot of that stuff has an impact on your body, and over time, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, well, of course, the PLF landing is a certain way that we land. It teaches, it diminishes all of the impact throughout the rest of your body. But I have neck problems. I have lower back problems. I've had 2 surgeries, actually 11 surgeries since 2003. Yeah.
Do you find the VA's been taking pretty good care of you?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
There are certain things that I'd like to see them improve on for sure, and a lot of that is the mental health portion.
Yeah.
Like most vets, I suffer from depression, PTSD, and with that comes mental health problems and stuff, and I'm still seeing a counselor, which is great. I love it. He helps me out a lot. But when we're done with our sessions, say it's 4 sessions or a month or whatever it is, it takes them a lot longer
to get you back
get me back into it, because we weren't done with what we had to do. And it's not, mental health is one of those things that all vets suffer from, no matter what. If you ever look at a POW flag, it's all gave some gave all.
Right.
And some of the vets gave it all at one time, but all vets gave it all for the rest of their life.
Oh, well said. Well said.
And so that's kind of one of the things that keeps me going, is to help vets and things like that. So.
And I agree with you 100% that the VA could be doing a lot better for our mental health, because there's been so many veterans that I've talked to. Unfortunately, some have ended up, taking their own life or something like that. And the VA just doesn't seem to be addressing the issues and the needs immediately. And sometimes people can't wait, like you're saying, to get back into the program. It could take 3-4 weeks, if not longer.
Yeah, it was almost 2 months.
Yeah, and that's 2 months of suffering.
Right.
That and it's just ridiculous that. So tell us, what did it mean to you personally about serving in the Army?
It was a calling.
Okay.
Like it was just something that was inside of me that said, this is what you need to do, and this is how you're going to do it. And So I mean, like being the MP that I was, if I wasn't in the field or deployed or anything like that, we were back at home, and we were helping the families of the deployed soldiers, and keeping them
Right.
safe and all of that stuff. And so it meant a lot, for sure.
Did you have any family that served? Any history of family?
Yeah. So funny story. On my dad's side of my family, the last person to serve was one of my great grandfathers, I think 4 or 5 removed, something like that. And he was in the Civil War. He
Right.
was in Michigan Infantry. I think it's the 505th or something like that.
I love hearing these stories.
So, passed down from my family was the rifle that he bought from Marlin.
You're kidding.
No,
Wow.
in the Civil War. It is the only one in existence that Marlin knows of at this point in time, and it's worth a pretty penny. But it's a beautiful gun, and the thing is that I have all of my great grandfather's veterans information, his service record, all of that stuff. So the VA records were great as far as
Wow.
trying to help us out with that. But yeah, so I mean, I have a little history going with that, and then on my mom's side, both my uncles. One was in the Air Force, the other one was in the Navy. My uncle that was in the Navy was on an aircraft carrier, and I can't remember exactly which one it was.
Right.
But my grandfather and my uncle were both in the Air Force. My grandfather retired as a captain, and my uncle was after he got out of doing active service, went all the way up to colonel in the Air National Guard, I believe.
Wow. And when you got out, what rank did you have?
I got out as a specialist.
So your grandpa, he didn't make you salute him, did he?
No, never. He was like before I was even born is when he
Right,
retired. so.
right. I know. I was just kidding.
Yeah.
So, looking, whoops, get back here. Tell us a little bit. I don't know how many different duty stations you have, but of all the different locations that you had, could you share with us what your favorite duty station was?
I think my most favorite was Fort Stewart.
Georgia, okay.
Yeah, it was a great location. I loved it. The off time was really great. We could turn around and launch a boat on the installation, drive it all the way out to the ocean, and we used to do that, once a month or so, and do some shrimping. Come back with a bunch of shrimp, and then we would invite all the guys together and have a shrimp boil or make gumbo or something like that. So,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
the camaraderie at Fort Stewart with my platoon was outstanding. Probably the best I ever served.
What was your favorite dish in Korea? I'm just curious.
Daeji Baekbon.
Never heard of it. What is that?
So it's a spicy pork and vegetables
Uh-huh.
with rice, and it was just, like I said, I was up in Tongashan,
Okay.
so it's northern South Korea,
Right.
and the little restaurant that was just off the installation was the one that made it, and it was the best. It was spicy enough to get you going, but the flavor was just great. And then of course, who doesn't love yakimandu? So.
Right. That I've heard of.
Yeah.
So, have you found any good Korean food here in the States anywhere?
Yeah.
That comes close?
Actually, there's 2 places that serve yaki, and one is I can't remember the name of the restaurant, but it's right off of the gate going out Fry Boulevard,
Uh-huh.
but it's just south of there.
Okay.
Behind the cleaners and all of that stuff.
All right.
I think it's like Yum something or brother, but
Okay,
they're
so
really good.
but you found something place here in Sierra Vista that's pretty good.
yeah, can't find any place to make Daeji Baekbon, but
No?
we get close with bulgogi or something. So.
Have you been there to the Gogi
No, I haven't been to that
Grill?
one
The one but you know where it's at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yet. Yeah, I actually keep planning about.
It's on my bucket list to go there for Sierra Vista for some of the local restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what positive experience did you get from serving in the military that you carried into your civilian sector?
I guess it was the Army values
Okay.
that helped, and it was the integrity and selfless service, and wanting to help people, on a daily basis. I think that's what I took the most out of. And, I had a staff sergeant always tell me, and a lieutenant at Fort Bragg, when I left Fort Bragg to go to Fort Sill, it was always remember where you came from.
Wow. Okay.
And I guess that stuck with me the hardest, and it was something that I took to heart, and I was like, you know what, you're right. I always have to remember where you came from, because it's who you are, whether it's from your family teaching you or all of that, those core values that you learn, you can always build on, but you'll always have those core values.
And didn't you say that you went into civilian law enforcement?
Yeah. Well,
so you also had the experience of being an MP,
right?
And then taking that training and
transferring that right over. I worked for a really small department in Maud, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And that was right after I exited the military, and then I did security up in Oklahoma City for a few years after that, and then I was like, you know what? I want to go back to work for the Army because something's missing for me. And what it was the camaraderie.
Right.
And so I turned around and took a civilian job as a police officer. And basically, right back at Fort Sill.
Fort Sill, Oklahoma?
Yeah, I started there. And
okay.
When I got there, I got into scuba diving because we had an incident on the installation. And the post commander was like, I want a scuba dive team to help do recover people who have drowned or whatever, because we had a lot of lakes on Fort Sill, and so the local law enforcement had one, and so we just kind of integrated with them at that point in time, which is where I learned to scuba dive. And we took our training to the next level where we could recover vehicles, we could recover property, and do underwater crime scene stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So we could be underwater in complete darkness and be able to draw a picture of what was around, if it was somebody threw a gun in the water or anything like that, we could turn around and, use our other senses underwater and feel around and draw a picture of how the gun was, where it was located at, and and all of that good stuff. So, yeah. And then
CSI.
Pretty much, yeah. Except we were just underwater scuba diving.
Right.
And, if a vehicle ever went in the water, we could lift airbags to it and lift it up out of the water and push it to shore so that a tow truck could pull it out or whatever.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us, how did you end up here in Cochise County?
So I'm actually from Arizona. I lived in Phoenix, which is where I joined the military. I lived in Arizona my whole entire life. Most of my life I was up off of I-40 in a little town called Joseph City.
Okay.
So it's right on the edge of the reservation, in the Painted Desert and
Petrified Forest?
Yeah, the Petrified Forest. There you go. Thank you. And so that's my first 5 or 6 years of my life. That's where I was raised at. And
so you were up like around Wilcox, Flagstaff, up in not Wilcox.
Williams.
Yeah. Wilcox. Jeez.
Yeah. It's Joseph City's in between Holbrook and Winslow.
Winslow is what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Winslow and
Yeah. So my dad was up there building the power plant. That's just off of Joseph City.
I love how when people go to Winslow, they have that statue and the standing on the corner.
Yep.
So let's switch gears and talk a little bit about some of your volunteer work. And we definitely want to talk about your organization, Undersea Warriors. Tell us a little bit about that.
So through scuba diving, when I was working for the military as a civilian police officer, I got into the scuba diving thing, and I really loved it. And I, at the time, didn't understand why. And through the military, I turned around and took that all the way up to dive master. And then I moved here to Arizona, and I left all the people that I was scuba diving with, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I can go dive in any of the lakes or go to Mexico or California or Texas or wherever and do that. But for some reason, one day I was on Facebook, and
this popped up in my feed, and it was Undersea Warriors, and I kind of read a little bit about it, and what it was it's an organization that helps veterans to help reduce their symptoms of PTSD, depression, anxiety, all of those things. And as I read further in it, there's a lot of research and development going on with the veterans and the PTSD and the depression and how to help them. And this organization has teamed up with a couple colleges that have done a lot of the research, and it shows in the research that scuba diving, for whatever, helps rewire the brain.
Really?
And relieve some of the PTSD symptoms. And it has to do with total immersion, and it's a lot of medical mumbo jumbo that I can't repeat. So, but I got together and I just emailed them, and I was like, hey, I'm already scuba certified, and I read up on your organization, and is there any way that I could help? And so the CEO turns around and actually emailed me back, and he's like, hey, I don't have anybody for the organization in Arizona, and I would like to make a chapter into Arizona. And I was like, okay, well, what do you need me to do? He's like, you'll be the chapter leader and run that chapter, and all you do is go talk to vets and tell them about what we're doing and how we're doing it and all of that stuff, and then you can turn around and you'll be the go-to guy. So any of the vets that want to learn how to scuba dive will come to you. And I was like, okay. And so as I learned more and more about the program started making more and more sense, and I got into it and just kept on going. And now I'm pushing it every day. I think I talked to a vet that either suffers from depression or PTSD or anything like that. And I'm like, hey, I have this program for you. And so what we do is we turn around and interview the vet. The only requirement is that you have to show that you have some sort of what do you call the compensation from the VA, like a diagnosis.
Okay.
A diagnosis of PTSD, depression. And then we can turn around and get you started into the program. And so what we'll do at first is turn around and take the vet, and we go do an introduction to scuba to see if they can deal with being underwater, breathing with scuba on, and handle that situation. If they do really good at it, then we turn around and we actually pay for the class for them to learn how to scuba dive. So we do their open water certification. Upon graduating, then we turn around and pay for that veteran to purchase equipment, which will be mask, fins, snorkel, and booties. And those are the bare minimum that a diver has to have if you go to Cozumel, Cancun, or go on a cruise, go to some dive shop in Florida or Texas or anything like that. Those are the core requirements. You can always rent a BC and tank and regulator and all of that stuff. But so the program actually works for the vet. We pay for all of that.
Wow.
And there's a caveat to that too. Say you want to go through the program.
Okay.
And we just don't want to send you through the program by yourself. You have to have a buddy, right?
Right.
And anytime you go scuba diving, you have to have a buddy. So we'll do the same thing for your buddy. And it doesn't matter what your buddy is. It could be your wife. It could be your best friend. They could not have been in the military or anything like that. It's just somebody that you like and you want to go scuba diving with.
Wow.
And so we do the same thing. Pay for their equipment and their class as well, And then after that...
Where do they go for the training here?
So depending on where you're located, if you're in Phoenix, then we find a dive shop in Phoenix that's close to you, and you can go through that dive shop. If you're down here in Sierra Vista...
Or Cochise County.
County, I work with the scuba shop, or scuba school that's down here. And it's Sierra Vista Scuba. They're really great.
I didn't know we had one down here.
Yeah. And so it's actually down the street from the Warrior Healing Center, so it's not too far away.
Okay.
And you meet with John and Shannon, and they'll turn around and do the introduction to scuba for you. And then once that's done, then we turn around and schedule you for a class as long as everything's good. Get you through the class, and then depending on where they want to do, so all of your stuff is done at their house and in their pool. And then once the open water, you have to go to a lake or some natural bottom to actually complete your scuba certification. Sometimes they go down to San Carlos, Mexico, which is beautiful. And you get to play with the coral, see all the fish and all of that good stuff. Or sometimes they go to the lake where you get to play with the fish and swim around all kinds of stuff. So, but yeah.
See, the reason I mentioned Cochise County is one of the great things about the Warrior Healing Center is they don't help veterans just here in Sierra Vista. We get
That's right.
a lot of help requests from Douglas and Bisbee and Benson, so they help people here in Cochise County. So that's why I wanted to ask you if a veteran watching this maybe later online or something and they're in Cochise County and they see that, how can they get in touch with you in order to schedule to get into the class and stuff? What would be a good way to do that?
So you can either call the Veterans or the Warrior Healing Center, and they can always message me right then and there if they're talking to you. Or I have some cards if you're in town and want to stop by. We have a pamphlet that you can read right here, and one of my business cards, which actually has my cell phone number on it, and I'll give that to you. And it's 520-559-9313.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll answer the phone. Sometimes I'll send you a voicemail. Just depends. But I will always get back with you.
And you will be having an office here at the center soon.
Yes, sir.
Too,
I think
so
we're going to share an office, right?
Well, that's a scuttlebutt I've heard. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm down with that.
Okay.
So another thing that you do, you have a veteran-owned business. Let's talk a little bit about that as well, if we can.
Okay. Well, so after I retired as a police officer out from Fort Huachuca, I was like, okay, what am I going to do? So, what's the next best thing for any vet? Play with guns.
Yeah.
And so I turned around and I went through the veterans, the VA, and they turned around and paid for me to go through gunsmithing school. And of course it took me...
Was that like through Voc Rehab or something?
Yeah, it was Voc Rehab.
Okay.
Because I had already used up my my GI Bill when I got out to go through college to get a criminal justice degree. So I used the Voc Rehab. They sent me through gunsmith school. It took almost a year and a half, almost 2 years, just shy of 2 years, and graduated, got my certificates and all of that stuff, and turned around and went to open up my gunsmith business.
And what's the name of it?
So it's called Gatz and Bratz, Gatz and Bratz Gunsmithing.
Okay.
I do have a Facebook page, and you just type in Gatz and Bratz Gunsmithing with the ampersand instead of the and it should take you there.
Do you have a shop, or do you do it out of your home? Or?
So I do it right now out of my home.
Okay.
And I'll work on any gun that you got, but I really love doing 1911s, and I like doing the older stuff too, like the cowboy action and all of that stuff. But, what we call black guns or ARs or AKs, I can work on all of them and do just about anything.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story of service and then to the community. And we're very excited here at the Warrior Healing Center that you're going to be working out of here. And I think this Underwater Warriors, did I say it right?
Yes, Undersea Warriors.
Undersea Warriors.
There you go.
I knew I was messing something up. Undersea Warriors is a great program. It sounds like a lot of veterans will be able to benefit from that.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping you'll get a lot of business from that.
I hope
and
so,
think
too.
you will.
Yeah.
I think you will. And then with your veteran-owned business as well, I'll reach out to Eric and give him your name and number so that he can get you on his program for the veteran-owned businesses and talk about that. Because another thing that the Warrior Healing Center does here is supports a lot of the veteran-owned businesses as well. So, well, good morning, Evie. She's our volunteer coordinator here at the Warrior Healing Center. So,
Hi, Evie.
thank you for joining us this morning. So again, I want to thank you so much for taking time out and
thank
joining
you.
us today.
No problem.
I did forget to ask you, do you have any last minute and any last words or any kind of inspiration that you'd like to share with us before?
You know, if you are suffering from PTSD, you know, and you're a veteran out there needing help, come to the Warrior Healing Center. You know, Tim and Kathy, that's all they do is want to help. And so they have so many programs here at the Warrior Healing Center, and I'm sorry, I'm just gonna, because I'm bragging about it because it's helped me.
Right.
You know, and so many other veterans here in the area. You know, if you need the help, contact us. They can get you set up until, you know, the VA can catch up to where they're at, you know.
There's no shame in asking for help. No shame.
That's right.
And it's better to get your life back on track and start living again and get out of that depression. And there's just so many things here at the center that they offer with the Flutes for Vets and the drum circles and the PTSD support groups. And there's just so much here that's offered.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and even if it's just for somebody to talk to, come here, because all the vets that are here, you know, we know what you're going through or have been there or something like that. And that's what we're here for, is to help. You know, we want to stop this 22 a day.
Yes.
For sure.
For sure. So today's some of the events that we have coming up this coming week. First off, today is the first Friday of the month. So that means Fun Food Friday today. That's right, Evie, you nailed it. Fun Food Friday today starts at 11 o'clock, goes till 1 o'clock, possibly 2 o'clock today, and come down. It's free for the veteran and their families. Come in, meet some people. Come in and meet Gary, and maybe he'll be here. Maybe you can talk with him about the Undersea Warriors or something that you'd be interested in. Hopefully, you'll meet some new friends, and it's a great way to just camaraderie.
That's
right. Yeah. So some of the events coming up on Monday, April 8th, we have the Tai Chi and Qigong class. That starts at 1,700 hours and goes to 1,830 hours. Also on Monday, April 8th, starting at 1,730 hours and going to 1,900 hours, is the Bible Discovery Group, and they will be meeting in the Warrior Healing Center's military library. On Tuesday, April 9th, starting at 1,400 hours, going to 1,530 hours, it's the Travolta Hope and Wellness Support for Caregivers. So if you're a caregiver and you need that support, this is definitely a group and a meeting that you want to come into and attend. On Wednesday, starting at 0830 hours, we have the VeloVets group ride. They ride every Wednesday and every Saturday. They meet at the Pueblo del Sol Country Club parking lot at the golf course. On Thursday, 11th April, starting at 1,700, going to 1,900 hours, is Taco Night at the American Legion Post 24. And Thursday night, 11 April, starting at 17:30, going to 19:30 hours, is Burger Night at the VFW Post 9972. And the last event that I want to share is there is a yard sale fundraiser that's taking place today, as a matter of fact, today and tomorrow, starting at 7 a.m., going till who knows when. It's going to be at 916 Calle Janetta here in Sierra Vista. That's 916 and then Calle, Calle, and then Janetta. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Jinette. So put that in your GPS and get down there and check out all the good stuff that they have down there at the yard sale today and tomorrow. And the proceeds from that do benefit us here at the Warrior Healing Center. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hope that you'll be here for the Fun Food Friday later. And have a great day and a good weekend. We'll see you next Friday. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.